Geoff, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So you're at the Nasdaq market site. It's the 50th anniversary of hip hop. People keep asking me, why Nasdaq? What do you think? What did you think when you said, I'm coming to ring the bell to celebrate this?
Well, I mean, I think Nasdaq, for a lot of people, it kind of represents innovation. It represents kind of making it. And so the idea of, the history of hip hop and taking it to the next level and thinking about all the innovative companies that have gotten in large part gotten their start, as Nasdaq listed companies, it seems like a really cool thing. I'm really proud and grateful that we got the invitation to kind of celebrate the 50th anniversary of hip hop at Nasdaq. I just hope that next time it'll be for our IPO listing.
Yes, it has to be.
Yeah.
So you're really a first in this space in the sense of investing in hip hop, investing in a company, partnering with LL Cool J.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? We read somewhere that, you did a lot of due diligence. What was that process around, you've been an investor for most of your career.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to this place of being a first in many spaces,
right?
But especially here.
Well, I've been in the venture capital business for about 38 years. And one of the things I've always loved doing is the startup process and meeting with people that have an incredible vision of the future and then helping them kind of realize their dreams. And I view my job really as a catalyst for helping people kind of achieve their dreams. And I look for three things when I think about kind of helping start a company. One is I look for a very bold, broad vision. Second is I look for a very relevant, large market. And the third is I look for a visionary, entrepreneur that has the passion and the credibility to kind of do what he or she wants to do, and then the ability to grab a team around it. And when I met with LL Cool J, at first I thought, well, somebody introduced us and a good mutual friend of ours named Glenn Hutchins. And, I was a little bit reluctant to take the meeting because I've had a lot of meeting over the years with talent.
Okay.
And
have you invested in them before?
Some I have and most I have not.
Okay.
And most of the time they have an idea that really isn't lasting,
Mm-hmm.
And they're not really driven. They don't have a pure drive to see it fulfilled. And so, I took the meeting and when I was finished, the meeting ended up being like a 2-hour meeting. And at the end of the meeting, I went, wow, this guy's really special. And, he's driven, he's got a reason to see this, his vision actually become reality more than, it wasn't about making money. It wasn't about fame. It was really about, a drive to give back to the culture that had given him something.
Yeah.
And then I met a guy who had succeeded in every aspect of his business,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was a musical artist or an actor or a mainstream kind of popular culture guy. And this really felt to me like this was kind of the next stage, the next world he hadn't conquered. And I really liked that. And so we spent a lot of time together and I put up a bunch of gates deliberately just to see how committed he was.
Like what?
So, I said, hey, let's meet and let's whiteboard kind of what the business would look like.
And is that standard when you're investing in founders and entrepreneurs?
Often I ask that of them and I assume that they've kind of pulled it together. In this case, I said, why don't we do it together? Because his idea was not fully formed.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted just to see, would he invest the time,
Mm-hmm.
to do all that, and also to see, was he committed? Was he committed to a goal more than just for him?
Yeah.
And so we spent a bunch of time doing that, and I said, well, let's do some research and let's hire someone to kind of help pull the business plan together.
Sure.
And then let's write checks together. And that was the next test. Was he willing to kind of take out his own checkbook?
Yeah.
And he did, and we did it together. And he had really, we really worked together for about 6 months before, truly partnering.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of that period, it was natural. We kind of said, let's go. I mean, this makes sense.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about the fact that most businesses or most startups, when founders and entrepreneurs have ideas, there's really an analogy for a company that has existed before.
Right.
And there's really a framework that, ideas might be new, but the business model is often repeated.
Right.
Have you seen companies that have given out equity in a community the way that Rock the Bells has, and the way that you guys have decided to, or whoever came up with the idea to really have the community of hip hop icons be invested in the DNA of the business? Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it a lot, and that was one thing I really respected about LL Cool J, which he made it very clear this wasn't about him. It was about the culture, and he wanted to have the kind of the forefathers of the culture, people who had shaped it, be equity owners and participate in the success. You see it from time to time when there are things where there's some important partners, whether they're athletes or they're artists or they're actors or whatever, and they get some ownership, in it. You see it. You're seeing a lot in mainstream brands, whether it's alcohol or beauty or what have you, where they'll bring in some people. But I don't think I've really seen it exactly the way LL Cool J has done it.
So you guys have really come up with a new format.
It's a variation on an existing format, but yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the commitment to, and I think to me it shows his commitment to the culture.
You also co-founded and run Redpoint Ventures.
Uh-huh.
Tell us a little bit about Redpoint, how you think about investments, and how you think about what you're excited about investing in right now.
I helped start Redpoint 24 years ago. I now am more of an advisory partner to the firm, but the firm, my heart is still very much with the firm, institutionally, and I do anything, for the firm's success. It's a exciting time, I think. There's always a new frontier. There's always kind of innovation, even in downturns.
Yeah.
There are, and I think right now the most recent movement in AI is really spurring a lot of interest and investment. Maybe arguably kind of too much.
Yeah.
But it really does feel to many of us, and I've said this for a while now, that this really does feel like a wave. Yeah. versus something that is kind of a blip. Mm-hmm. And the business models it creates and the opportunities it creates and how pervasive I think AI is going to be in the industry. It is maybe overdone in terms of, if you look at the amount of funding that has an AI theme, it's probably overdone. But there are the number of really innovative ideas from young entrepreneurs who, as a theme, are looking at this completely differently.
Yeah.
It does feel like the mobile revolution, or feels like when the internet first came along. And these things tend to get overdone.
Yeah.
But when it's fundamental wave, I think we'll look back on this period and say, I think the next period after this will be, well, is AI for real? Look at all these companies that look like Me Too companies. A bunch of them may go out of business. But then we'll look back with the benefit of time and say 15 or 20 years and say, wow, that was a fundamental revolution. Look at the platform that it has built. Yeah. And how it's changed society.
And this was the time when everything started to shift.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's. I think the internet or mobile revolution is very reminiscent of it. Right. Yeah. And AI isn't necessarily a new theme. I mean, it's or new technology. I mean, we've been talking about it since the 70s.
Yeah.
And you look at, before, people were talking about data analytics, machine learning, and that's kind of a variation. But
what were they talking about in the 70s when it came to AI?
Well, they were talking about kind of creating AI models. But the processing power and the software power and the ability and the availability and the ability to crunch huge amounts of data as a learning set.
Yeah.
And then having data models, data warehouses, and compute, the ability to do that just was kind of it's unheard of.
Yeah.
And it's always this way, right? Where things limp along and all of a sudden it kind of takes off. And it's because it's the coming together of all these different things and the primordial soup that really makes it take off.
Yeah. So today is about celebrating the 50 years of hip hop.
Yeah.
You know, as you had a front row seat and driver's seat in, you know, what's happening in hip hop, what lessons and what do you see that are the parallels for that entrepreneurs, that founders, even executives can take from, you know, everything from the mentality to the hustle to the collaboration, to the way that people shift culture? How do you see the similarities in, you know, the incredible entrepreneurs and founders that you get to invest in?
You know, I by no means feel like I'm one of the drivers of hip hop. I'm really more an observer, right? But you know, my observations are that it's an incredible culture, right? It's a culture that started off with a bunch of individuals, I think, that felt like they were not part of mainstream society, and they were trying to make a statement. That created a new art form, and that art form went beyond just music. It went from just beats to lyrics to dance to fashion to art to, you know, and when you look at hip hop today, you know, one of the things that I think is remarkable, it's not part of mainstream culture. It is mainstream culture, right? It kind of defines the trends. It defines everything.
Yep.
And we always say that, you know, if you look at the through line, it is the most dominant theme in popular culture, right? And this is only after 50 years. And it's been done in a way that has been very organic and has grown up in its own silos. And what we're trying to do at Rock the Bells is kind of break down the silos and kind of create a platform where the culture can thrive. And we start a little bit by celebrating its past and its roots, but our full intention is to bring it, you know, all the way to mainstream and kind of have the people who are shaping where the future of hip hop goes connect with the people who kind of brought it to where it is today. And you think about it, in 50 years, that really isn't that long a period of time for it to be the mainstream culture. I can't wait to see what the next 50 years look like, right? And, you know, and I'm just amazed because it isn't just, sure, there are brands that have been built and created that are strictly in this space, like Supreme or whatever. But then you look at the current mainstream leading edge, like fashion brands, whether it's Gucci or Dior or it's Adidas or Nike. I mean, it has shaped how we think, right? And you know, artists like Basquiat or I mean, it's everywhere. And so I'm really excited and I'm really interested to observe where the next 50 years go.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
It's been an incredible day, and you have to come back soon.
I would love to. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.